Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be the weekly Power Profit Scan newsletter review, which is a portion of the Inner Circle subscription. The other portion is a live trading room, but as far as this video is concerned, I'm going to be focused just solely on one of the past weeks of the newsletter that I sent out to all the subscribers. A couple little disclaimers first. Am I implying that every single alert, that every single scan is a massive winner and causes money to rain down from the sky? I'm not implying that at all. Nobody's perfect. No scan's perfect. Nothing is perfect. So there are definitely plays that either nothing works out or it turns out to be a loser. If you've watched any of the past videos in this segment, then you've seen me talk about losing trades and such. And I'm going to be looking at one in this video that also shows some pretty gray area in terms of an alert that didn't quite work out, the way you would want it to. But like I said, my point here is not that, or I'm not trying to imply or give you an impression that everything is a winner. But what I do want to convey is this is why risk management, risk control is so important, because when you keep things controlled, things being losses, and don't let a loss spin out of control, there will be winners that also come along. And when you have winners and you manage your losers properly, then those winners are going to take care of the rest. So if anything, I hope you walk away with just understanding why risk management is so important. The other thing to keep in mind is I am going back several weeks ago. The reason for that is twofold. First, I just want to give the chart enough time to have played out. And then also, to be fair to the paying members, I don't want things to still be in play when some people have paid for it. I want them to have, the 100%, benefit of, the alert and having the chart play out and all of that. So that's why we're going back into the history of things. And for this week, we're going to take a look at the week of 8/20 of 18. So let's get to it. As far as this alert was concerned, VSTM was the ticker. The category was a technical pattern, and as you see mapped out here, we had a good old-fashioned ascending triangle pattern. So let's see how this one all played out. A couple of notes here. This is the newsletter goes out on the weekends, on Saturdays. So this is what it looked like going into the week, and then the next candle you see will be Monday of the following week. So with that being said, let's see how this one played out. So started to show some life there. Started to really show some life, and then right there got the actual breakout of the pattern. And you can see they're still looking quite nice, still looking very nice. And then that candle right there occurred. And this is one where, I'm not saying people would have been stopped out, but I would say that, you probably the majority of people were stopped out on that just crazy candle to think that the price dropped all the way back down there. If somehow, somebody held through that, then you can see that it actually recovered and then got up as high as almost $10.50. But with that being said, in my mind, this is one of those where things start off great and then that candle really just threw a wrench in the plan. And pretty much I would assume caused either a relatively small gain, a break even, or maybe even a small loss. Like I said, depending on your strategy, depending on where you're structuring your risk control plan. And remember, risk control, risk management, very, very important. So depending on how that was all structured, then this one, like I said, started off beautifully, got the pattern breakout, and it was, chugging along for a few days. And then that candle happened, and that would have, like I said, depending on the strategy, break even, could have still been somewhat of a smaller winner or even a smaller loser. Now, it's not like it crashed all the way down here and would have been, something crazy, but still just annoying, especially when, of course, then the price recovered and back up it went. But sometimes this happens, and that's why I say, it's not like everything, and I don't want to imply that every alert I send out is just sunshine and rainbows and little sweet kittens. There's sometimes, this is just part of trading. You have weird, crazy days like this that can, like I said, throw a wrench in the middle of a trade plan. Next alert here was on ticker symbol GEMP, and a little context, still watching. That's just the previous week I also put on GEMP, and it was all about, hey, let's see if we can get some sort of bounce. And then this week happened. In other words, there was no bounce that ever occurred. However, because I still, like the fact that it maintained those gains and such, I decided to throw it on and just say, let's keep watching it. So as I noted here in more detail, not giving up on this one quite yet, as a no play last week, but looking like it may want to wake back up this week. And as you'll see, it did not wake up this week, but the idea here is to keep an eye on that level there, those lows, and you'll see that while it never went, the following week, the whole concept is, let's just keep an eye on it. As long as it can still kind of keep itself in play, meaning it's not, collapsing down here or anything like that, then just keep an eye on it. And this is one of these where, a little spoiler alert, patience definitely pays. And of course, keep an eye on that trend line there too, as I pointed it out. And, remember, that's a trend line, so it, in theory, just keeps on extending out. So that'll play a role in the alert as, like I said, patience pays. Again, here is the chart before the next week starts to unfold, and there's that trend line right there, so just keep an eye on that too. So you can see that once again, things just kind of mellowed out, but keep in mind, it's not like there was any crashes or anything going on. In fact, in a perfect world, if I really wanted to manipulate the numbers, I could just say, see, and then you bought at this level of support, which is not illogical at all. I mean, that is actually a very realistic thing. It's a very logical thing to have done, but I'm not going to base the numbers off of buying at this level of support where the price had bounced before. But if anybody had, which again, I would not consider unrealistic, illogical at all, then, they had that, the percentages added up that much more for them. But what I'm going to assume is we'll just keep an eye on it. So like I said, patience pays, but again, nothing is collapsing. It's just taking time. Hence the quote unquote still watching category. Just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. And again, another opportunity to be buying at this level of support. Again, that's not where the numbers are being based from. But right there, things start to come back to life. And then things really come back to life. And there is the good old-fashioned trendline breakout right there. And you can see it eventually worked its way up there in a very short amount of time. Now, the move took a while to actually occur. I mean, a lot of sideways. But once the move happened, it happened in a hurry. And that yielded a 65.6% move. Very, very solid. Now, am I saying that, people played it exactly perfectly and captured 65.6%? I'm not saying that. But let's say you played it half right. That's still up over 30%. Let's say you played it maybe 3/4 right. Now you're looking at right around, 40% or so. So, I mean, the idea here is the profit window gave plenty of opportunity to those that were patient and, continued to watch it. Plenty of opportunity to pull some profits from the breakout. The final chart to look at, ticker symbol CVM. And category of breakout starting. You look down here at the annotations, and yeah, I guess I was technically a little late to the party on this one because the breakout had already started. So the big question going in was, is this the start of a bigger breakout? Pointed out the increase in volume. So let's see if this thing did indeed break out bigger or not. Here's a chart going in. Like I said, technically a little late to the party, but as you'll see, sometimes it's totally fine to be late as long as you still get to experience the party. But there was going into the week. So what I liked about this was plenty of opportunity for people to get filled. In fact, good old classic technical analysis, pulled back tested the trend line that it had just broken out from. So classic example of resistance turning into support. Once again, I'm not basing the calculations on, you played it perfectly off the trend line bounce. So I'm assuming that you didn't quite get the entry point, perfect, which again, the perfect entry point would have been the back test there, but that's not what these numbers are even based off of. But let's just continue to see if a breakout actually continued. And there we go. Good solid candle. So there was no waiting around. Monday, plenty of opportunity to get filled. And then Tuesday, this thing was, like I said, the party continued. And we'll kind of speed this up. Nice little healthy consolidation there before breaking up to the upside. Once again, healthy consolidation before ripping to the upside again on good solid volume, and then has since pulled back for a move of up over 300%. So just like I said, sure, technically late because the breakout had already gotten above that trend line, but plenty of continuation and follow through. So an absolute monster. Once more, am I saying that people played it perfectly and got the 300%? I'm not saying that. But let's say you only played it half right. Let's say you screwed up like, wow, I only got 50% of that move. Well, when the move is 300%, that's still 150% in basically a few weeks. And, spoiler alert, walking into your local bank, if you ask for 150% return on your money in like a month's time, they will probably call the police on you. So overall, a monster move. And even if you screwed it up and only got half of it right, I mean, that's still a big gain that you could have had in your account. And that's why, like I said, risk versus reward so important. That first one, we'll just err on say that, that one day actually caused the trade to be a loss. Well, things like this, and then the previous one with GEMP, I mean, those things winners happen, big winners happen. And when those big winners do happen, you want to make sure that your account from a risk perspective is in a position where you never let any, losing holes get too big where you can't dig out of them. But with plays like this, you can definitely dig out. If you are interested in getting alerts like this, then you can just go to claytrader.com/inner circle, or just claytrader.com, then up at the, find the inner circle section. And, you get a bunch of other benefits, like I said at the beginning. We just were focused on the power profit scans here, but the other big one is the live trading chat room. And if you follow social media, that's kind of where a lot more of those are documented. But, those are just a couple, and you get other, benefits here, as you can read. There is a mobile app, so by no means you need to be, chained to your computer or anything like that. You can keep in touch at any time. And the price is $99 per year. I'd encourage you to get out the calculator, because when you break down that by the week, it literally breaks down to $1.90 per week. So I'm going to ask you, what do you spend $1.90 on every week? Probably, a whole lot of things. So, if you can just sacrifice $1.90 per week, you can afford the subscription. Again, that's what it breaks down to. So one of those no excuse situations. Now, if it was $99 per month or, $297 per quarter, like a lot of people charge, I'd understand that. But $99 per year, $1.90 per week, no excuses. If anybody can give it a try. If there are any other questions on it or anything, leave them down in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer them. For you members out there that watch these videos, a big congratulations, for this batch of scans. Definitely some monster movers, and some of those that if you did take some losses on other scans, plenty of wiggle room here to totally clear those away, plus put you in the green. So congratulations to those members.